We mages of Valor have long sought the advancement of the Arcane. We have achieved it with the Ultronian machines. The magic literacy of our people has increased tetrafold, and spells that would have taken decades to learn properly are achievable in just a few scant years, or even less in talented hands. But I can't help but feel like we're sacrificing something for this. A sacrifice so grave we may never recover from it. Hey guys, it's Zach, and welcome back to another video in our Epocrion series, where today we'll be talking about the arcane magic system that the world utilizes, or more so, the world's unique take on the concept. You see, I already have a magic system that is universally applied to all of my settings. However, how a culture interprets this system and therein utilizes it can vary drastically between realms depending on the resources available to the denizens of that world. But with that out of the way, I'd like to quickly shout out my Discord, which you can join if you're looking for another D&D community to add onto your list, or even playing a game run by yours truly, seeing as I am a professional dungeon master. It also is the place you'll find the most information regarding any games run in the world of Epocrion, with the D&D 5e system backing it. Additionally, you can become a member of my Patreon for free to gain access to some of the content featured here in this video today. Or if you want to just support the dream, that works too. Alright, so for those that don't know, I have a video on my channel where I discuss the finer details of how my magic system works and functions. I highly recommend you go and watch that video if you'd like to have absolutely all of the details. But for the sake of brevity, I'm going to quickly touch upon the arcane magic system of my settings. Referred to as the arcane soul, it is thought to be the legitimate soul of all mortals across the realms. And it's also the source of magic within one's body. This source of magic is like a muscle, and if sufficiently trained, can allow one to become quite powerful as an entity. This usually comes in the form of small, average, and large arcane souls. However, this does not determine the potency of one's spellcasting ability. This metaphysical muscle can also affect one's bodily toughness, the sharpness of their mind, and their overall sensitivity to magic. And since every mortal being possesses an arcane soul, this means that even if you're a rogue, for instance, as long as you live a life that allows you to test your abilities and grow as a person, your arcane soul will reflect that by growing alongside you. This system also doubles as a narrative way to explain the phenomenon of leveling up. However, there is a very real limitation in that unless you are inundated with other types of magic, or have adventured far and wide to various magically entrenched locations, the average mortal can achieve levels 3 to 4 in their lifetime. Those who are exceptional can achieve level 5, and level 8 is reserved for the utmost talented of this world, the top 0.1%. And this barrier cannot be breached in any way unless one goes through supernatural means to do so, or if they venture into other worlds and absorb their ambient magic, thusly empowering their own. But with explanations out of the way, we can get to the fun part, talking about how this magic system ties back into our high fantasy, post-apocalyptic world of Epocrion'Eth. You see, the people of this world developed a rather unique understanding of magic, wherein a Ceres, a magically trained individual, will train their arcane soul throughout their entire life and make up for the potential weaknesses in their understanding and execution of the arcane. The denizens of Epocrion realized something, that through gathering the arcanum which naturally flowed all around them and levying this to an arcane focus, they could cast magic in a much less taxing way. However, this form of magic does come with its drawbacks. When depending on the environment to pull on the ambient arcanum that surrounds you, you also deprive the environment of its arcanum as well, almost entirely. which, depending on the degree and frequency of use, can dry an area completely of the ambient arcanum that flows from the Aurora Arcanis above, gifting the land with magic. The main drawback is that those who are modern spellcraftists tend to have relatively small reserves compared to their predecessors. This because they aren't cultivating their arcane souls due to high magic flow efficiency that the arcane focuses allow them to use. This led to most Epocrionians having a smaller than average arcane soul through generation upon generations of this practice, and became known as modern spellcraft, whereas the art of cultivating one's arcane soul through hard work, study, and strife became known as traditional spellcraft. Modern spellcraft in the end lowered the barrier for entry to becoming a proper mage within this world. However, this created a over-reliance on Altrafocuses, which are arcane focuses that have been modified with an Ultronium machine to achieve an extremely high amount of magic flow efficiency, which I'll put the definition of right here. However, the barrier for casting higher forms of magic also became much, much higher and more difficult to achieve. This is because high-level forms of magic still require a sufficiently infused arcane soul that has been fostered through growth in order to achieve that level of magic casting ability, which a traditional spellcraftist wouldn't have an issue performing these feats. However, the traditional cultivation process involves a lot of danger, as growing your arcane soul also entails the growth of you as a person and not just your arcane abilities, which is why within the world of Epocrion, you can have individuals with large arcane souls that simply do not practice magic at all and were just born that way. Their arcane soul contributes to other factors of their existence, like physical resilience and even indomitable willpower. This has created divides within Epocrion, as modern spellcrafters try to push spell-focused innovation in order to circumvent their smaller arcane souls that are getting smaller by the generation. Or they utilize other aspects of their environment, such as tapping into the veins of the Aurora Arcanis above to perform great feats of magic they themselves would not be capable of performing alone. And due to the increasing reliance on Altrafocuses and other high-end magic materials to achieve their end, most modern spellcraftists come from and are taught within cities. On Acreon, our main continent for our story, one would most likely learn modern spellcraft in Arcamore, the capital of the Kingdom of Valora, where spellcraft is taught in colleges and by high-end private tutors for the exceptionally wealthy. And on the other side of the coin, traditional spellcraftists use the old way methods because building one's arcane soul takes time and the barrier for entry is naturally higher, and only those who are truly devoted to the craft can benefit from it, in the form of being able to cast magic that derives purely from oneself without having to gather much arcanum from your native surroundings at all. The process of magic flow efficiency can then turn any magic practitioner of any arcane soul size into a prominent and powerful mage. The traditional style of spellcraft would be taught mostly by tutors in far-flung villages away from the bustling and advanced cities of Valora. It is here that many of the more ancient practices of spellcraft would be taught, mostly by much older mentors who still remember and practice these forms of magic to this day. Every mentor has a specialty, which they pass on to their students, which results in seemingly new and odd spells popping up from the perspective of a modern spellcraftist. The knowledge and teachings most times equal and rival those that are found within cities, the only difference being the technology available to them and how they go about their arcane processes. If a modern spellcraftist is, say, struggling with a brand new spell, they may go find a magistone with a similar effect, or they might go and find a specialized wand that simply casts a desired spell instead. Having to now not worry about this brand new spell, they go on to another fancy that catches their attention and quickly try to digest that intellectual information. Whereas a traditional spellcraftist would try to understand the spell on a fundamental level, learning from the very base arcane language that the spell provides, and learn it that way from the ground up. A modern spellcraftist would be prone to almost backwards engineering a spell that they may have seen, whereas a traditional spellcraftist would remake the spell from scratch in their own vision. But going on to Altrafocuses and away from modern and traditional spellcraftists, we have the Altrafocuses themselves. In lore, they're special casting focuses with Altronium cores working in their construction. There are even focuses that are entirely a small Ultra engine that's attached to a glove or a gauntlet, which allows for easy spell weaving. They would be sought after and coveted by mages of all kinds, as the properties of the focuses simply make casting spells more efficient, meaning the mage in question has more energy to further cast more magic. You see, within my magic system, depleted spell slots are usually associated with a type of physical tiredness. So someone being too tired to cast magic in world would mean they mechanically no longer have any spell slots. Speaking of mechanics, the Altrafocuses as a magic system within my world come in 3 versions, with each one being more potent than the last. The item in its most basic state reads as such. While attuned to this spellcasting focus, you can use the feature Gather Ambient Arcanum as an action, after which you have access to a temporary spell slot that can be used in place of a spell slot you already own when casting a spell. This temporary spell slot can be used on a spell of 1st, 2nd, or 3rd level. This feature can only be used once every 24 hours. So we now have created a basis for how the Altronium magic items will function to an extent, drawing in the ambient arcanum in the air and ground to achieve certain magical effects. But with the Altrafocuses in particular, the potency of the temporary spell slot will increase as you acquire or upgrade into better Altrafocuses. And that does entail a crafting system, which I really want to make. Well, that, my friends, brings us to the end of our video. I hope you guys that stuck around to the end have enjoyed everything so far, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future. Also, don't forget you can find the Altrafocus on my Patreon as a free member and can join my Discord to have the first foot in the door whenever the Epocrion 2 shots I plan on running in the future open up. And with that, I'll be seeing you guys in the next one.